Hello again, it's Scripts and Killers with Hamina Farota. You're welcome back to this YouTube channel. Today's story is about, there's this book. The book is titled The Exorcism of Anna Ecklund. Actually, the lady involved in this story, we are not going to be discussing a crime story, I'm going to be sharing with you a horror story. And do you believe in demons, possessions, evil spirits, ghosts? Okay, now her actual name, her first name is Emma, but for privacy reasons, she was given a pseudonym that's Anna Ecklund. So there's this book. The book was written by one Reverend Father Carl. Now this book is titled The Exorcism of Anna Ecklund. So we're going to be discussing, we're going to be having an exorcism story. Now Anna Ecklund was born in the late 1980s. And she was born to Jacob. Not much is said about her mom. Her dad's name was Jacob. She had an aunt, and this aunt's name was Mina, not Amina. Mina, that was the aunt's name. So, and he said that she grew up as a normal child. She was really lively. She was lovely. She was loved by people. She was a very okay kid. And then her problems, her mom died at a very early age. And he said that while her mom and dad were together, her aunt was having an affair with her dad. Her aunt Mina was having an affair with her dad. He said that this dad is a very, very promiscuous man. And at the age of 14, the dad was against the Roman Catholic Church, whereas Anna Ecklund grew up in this Catholic home, this Catholic setting. So at the age of 14, she discovered that she was having weird thoughts. She was having thoughts of sexual relations, and then she was finding it difficult to enter the church. And she grew up in this church environment. Suddenly, when she got to the church, she would feel like there's a barrier, something holding her away from stepping into the church. She also reacted. She was having this aversion towards holy water, the communion, and all of those things. So whenever they had these rituals and she was giving the communion, like she would vomit, she would so vomit out her guts and all of this. So she was having several issues, and her parents decided to take her to the psychiatrist. Now this is 1912. So, and at this point, mental health, like there was no much advancement in the area of mental health. So she'll take it to a psychiatrist, from there she'll take it to the medical personnel. And they checked her and they just found her fit. There was nothing wrong with that. They discovered she was okay. And then in most of the time she was taken to the hospital, there was no behavior from her. There was no sort of all these manifestations. So sometimes she would just growl in this kind of loud voice and people wouldn't understand. And at the end of the day, like if you ask her what happened, like she wouldn't even be able to recollect what had happened. Sometimes she would throw objects at people, like she would scatter the place, scatter the open. Whenever this holy water was brought towards her, like she would just hiss, she would have this very mean attitude. And then her aunt Mina kind of suggested that it is possible that she was possessed by demons. So she was taken to the church. When she took her to the church, there was this Reverend Father Reisinger. Reverend Father Reisinger, this is his name. He decided to have this exorcism. So they did the exorcism is like when you say you want to deliver somebody. So they wanted to have this exorcism, wanted to take out the demon that was possessing her, and then they had this exorcism in 1912. It was successful, and then she had a normal childhood. She was able to grow up. She just did until her parents died. I think in 1926, her parents died before she was 30 years old. Now when she became 30 years old, she started having these manifestations again. Like these things, they were disturbing her life. She wouldn't be able to go to church again. She was having aversion to all of those things again. So at this time, she decided to seek out Reverend Father Reisinger. So when she went to look for him, she found him in Iowa. Now she grew up in Wisconsin, so she found him early in Iowa. So when they got to this father, she explained to him what was going on with her. And then at this point, the Reverend Father, he knew the kind of the results most time of exorcism, there might be public backlash, all of those things. So he decided to seek out another Reverend Father. This is Reverend Father Joseph Steiger. And this was the father in one of the convents at Ellen, Iowa. So this was the St. Joseph's Catholic Church then. So they decided to take her there. The reason being that they were the place was not so populated then. It was kind of like an isolated place. They wanted to take her, and this convent was controlled by the Franciscan sisters. So they took her there to have this exorcism in this quiet place. So she got there on August 17th of 1928. So when they got to that place, she was 30 years old at this time. So when they got to the place, the exorcism, she had 3 sessions of exorcism that took place from August. The first one started on August 18th to August 23rd, and the second phase of the exorcism started in September 15th, and it lasted until September 23rd. And the last phase of the exorcism took place, started on December 15th till December 23rd. Now, during the first phase of the exorcism, first off, when they got to this convent, so she was taken to the convent, they spoke to all of the sisters after obtaining permission from the mother superior. So she was taken into the convent to have this exorcism. Now, the exorcism was scheduled to take place on the 18th of August, to begin on the 18th of August. When they got there, they told all the sisters there, like, nobody should annoy her, she should be taken care of. Whatever it is that would like rile up her emotions, should just strictly avoid them. So when they made her food, they were to serve her food, they kind of sprinkled it with holy water. And then I forgot to add that when she was a child, they actually suspected that she was probably just pretending. So sometimes there was a time the Reverend Father anointed her clothes with fake water. She did not react at all. But then when it was anointed with the original, like, she would just react to it. Now, at this time, the nuns kind of like blessed her food. And then when they blessed the food, when they gave her, she started eating, she was angry, she was behaving, she was growling the whole place. So they had to like take her to the room. Then until that August 18th, at the beginning, when they were about starting the exorcism, she was chained to the bed. She was tied to the bed. Then after tying her up to this iron bed, they called about 6 of the strongest sisters. Reason being that the very Father knows how exorcism could be. That sometimes the possessed person might just like attack the people around. So they had to look for the strongest sisters in the convent. They held her down. 6 sisters held her down on the iron bed, and then immediately started the opening prayer. She went into this deep sleep. She slept and her eyes were shut, that the eyes could not be opened by anyone. So she just went into this deep. Now immediately they started the exorcism, she leaped into the air, like the close to the door. She was in the air. She was floating in the air. Wee, wee, wee. So she was floating. Like the sisters the Reverend Father was not prepared for any of this. So they had to like deceive her to like get they had to give her like a duster to like bring down the cupboard while she was distracted. So the sisters, they were ordered to pull her down to the bed. And then she was pulled back to the bed, held down. When they held her down on the bed, my sister, she started howling. She was howling, brothers and sisters. I'm not kidding. She kept howling and howling and howling in unrecognized voices. And then she started, like, she understood only German and English. But at this point, she started speaking Latin. She could speak Polish. She could speak French. She understood if she was whispering things in Latin. And then she would go to this sleep. When she would sleep, she would be muttering some words like in unrecognized voices. She would just be speaking some curse words and all of these things. And then she will react negatively to Latin expressions of blessings. So she started understanding this language, and it got to the point she attacked the sister. She howled and howled to the point that even the neighbors that were around, they had to like come to the place they wanted to see. And then later on, towards the end of the first phase of this exorcism, she started vomiting. She was vomiting, like she ate less at this point. She couldn't eat more, but she was vomiting like impossible amount. She was throwing up impossible amount of vomit. She would vomit, and then she was vomiting debris, and then and also water, other things. She would even vomit tobacco leaves. Nobody knew how these things got into her, and she kept vomiting. Impossible. She was throwing up impossible amount of vomit. So this is that they like everybody was scared. So the Reverend Father Reisinger was really committed towards this. And then there was the end of the first phase. Then to the second phase, when the second phase began in September 15th, the Reverend Father ordered her to speak like, how many of you are in her? Then she said there are many. The demon said there are many in her. And then the Reverend Father believed that these demons are like seven. And then the demon spoke up. The demon said the reason the first exorcism, like the initial one she had at age 14, did not go through, was because she was possessed with the dad had possessed her. There was the dad and her aunt, because the aunt practiced her aunt used to practice dark magic, so she was possessed by their spirits. And then they said at that point, after the exorcism, when the Reverend Father left, the aunt and dad, they were still alive then, so they kept giving her food with cursed spices. They said this was the reason the demons came back, and this time they came back stronger. So it says there were many in her, and then he said the Ogun challenge of the demons in her. The name of that guy was Beelzebub. And then when they asked again, like, what do you want from her? And then one of the demons said, that demon said his name was Judas. His brother na Judas Iscariot. We don't really know, but he said his name na Judas. And this Judas said the reason they were possessing her was because they wanted her to commit suicide. They wanted to frustrate her until she commits the suicide. Now, after recognizing this demon, the Reverend Father went on to continue the second phase of this exorcism. Now, this second phase of exorcism, she was vomiting and she was stooling. She was passing out impossible amount of urine and excreta that was humanly impossible. Shit, where they talk so. Like the way she was passing out this thing, and then the odor that was coming out of this place was more like it was out of this world. So people were getting scared. The sisters were shying away from living in this place. And then sometimes her body started, her face was contorting, like her head would grow so big, then it would reduce in size again. Like sometimes she would just contort, she would become a different shape, and she would remain like that for days before returning to another shape. Her body would just grow so big. And then there was a point that she increased to like 2 times of her normal size, that the sisters were wincing in fear. They thought they were in fear of, they thought she was going to explode. Like she will increase so much in size, and then she will pass out this large amount of excreta. And then there are these flies that will come out from nowhere. They will just fly out, and then they will disappear into the air. Insect to crawl out, and then this insect will go back into the air, just disappear as soon as they came out. Now, the Reverend Father that was in charge of the convent, Reverend Father Joseph Steiger, if you could recall, he was getting scared at this point, but Reisinger was determined. Now, while he was getting scared, he said he had that one of the demons had come to him in a dream, and they had warned him to like withdraw the permission from them to do the exorcism in that place, and he should send them away. And at this point, the Reverend Father told Reisinger to please, that he doesn't want this to continue, he doesn't want the trouble, and they had to like ask him, we are be friends, please do not let this come in between us. And then he told them that the demons had appeared to him and they had warned him. So on this particular day, the Reverend Father Steiger went somewhere, and then on his way back, he said that day it was just a bright afternoon, clear skies, and then suddenly the road ahead of him became dark, even in front of him, like everywhere became dark all of a sudden. He couldn't see. He was driving, he couldn't see. He kept driving, he wasn't seeing anything, and then all of a sudden there was a crash. He hit something, and then he just said he only suffered like few bruises and injuries, so he came out of the car. He was so scared that he was fighting. So immediately he was withdrawing his support for the exorcism. But Reverend Father Reisinger was determined, so they continued this exorcism. So while her face kept contorting, her body was changing in size, she was passing out these pieces and urine. She like the stench was sending people away. Then some of the nuns, they started pleading for permission to go back to be sent to other convents. Like you wouldn't blame them. Like this is something they had never seen before. They were scared. So some of the nuns were leaving this St. Joseph's convent they were living, they were moving out. So the exorcism continued, and then in the third phase of the exorcism, these flies will keep coming out, and then this she will just then later on she started like she was able to tell the secret of the nuns, small small thing where those ravens sister don commit, where they hide, all those kind thing. Omo demon go open mouth like this, go tell them, acting when you do time when you smoke, you sorry you do so the sister started shying away, they started running away from the exorcism ceremony, started avoiding like, and then she will howl, she will growl, she was producing this cultural sound like even people could not, even when her face contorted, some persons could not believe that this is the gentle woman that came into this convent, like. And then when she woke up, when she would come back, when she was giving those holy water, sometimes she would become normal, and then she would have no knowledge of anything that went on. And in the last phase, after all of those things, they said all of a sudden she like screamed, like she yelled so loud to the point that it got to this fever pitch, and then she just like collapsed. And then all of a sudden, he said on December 23rd, she just woke up and then she said, "Demon, Satan, be gone." And then she was free. That was it. So she was able, then in the years following, she was able to live a normal life. Then Reverend Father Steiger decided to like live a very quiet life. Like he never spoke, he never wanted to speak about the incident that had occurred. Some of the nuns were scared. So this Reverend, the other Reverend Father Ryan Singer, that he became like a celeb, like even in 1936, he was on the page of Times Magazine. He became I think it was he was given a title, The Exorcist, or something of that nature. Like it became very popular. The Times Magazine actually dedicated a page to him. He told them the story of this exorcism. And then this the Carvel, the Reverend Father I'm talking about, that wrote this the exorcism of Ecklund. Like he wrote it from collecting accounts of different stories from the nuns that were present there, the people that witnessed the exorcism, and then he was able to get Reverend Father Steiger to speak up about what he experienced during the exorcism, and Reverend Father Reisinger like granted him an interview, so they spoke. There was a time that persons were saying this story was not true. They thought it wasn't true. Things like, so they had to like, they found one of the maids that worked in the convent. She was a cook in the convent at the time it happened. And she said everything in that book, The Exorcism of an Icon, it's a 48-page book, that everything inside is true, and then there is more. She said there are things that she saw in that place. There are things she said some things happened that were so scary that they are not even in the book. Like the event that took place in that convent, they were scared. In fact, they are far scarier than what is contained, what is documented in that book. So that's it for me today, guys, on the exorcism of an Ecklund. You tell me what you think. Do you believe in demons, possessions, Satan? All right, bye.